thanks to your spirit and faith that does not fit into the molds of the world. An era beyond borders is beginning. Those who watch you are amazed because you are called to places they could not even dream of because you were chosen. When everyone says, impossible, your name becomes the key to new opportunities. It is no longer time to hide, it is time to rise. Are you ready to touch the stars? Write 555 in the comments now, because this call is only waiting for you. Think of your life like a lamp in a room that sat dim for too many seasons. When you turn on your light, the corners can't hide what's gathered there. Some folks get uneasy, not because of the light itself, but because they realize how long they've gotten used to the dark. You see, in every family, every neighborhood, there are people who've spent decades drawing their curtains tight, trying to live by the old rules. It's like they've built a fence around the yard of their heart, planting only the seeds that were handed to them, never daring to try something wild or beautiful or new. Then you show up, watering what wants to grow, letting your colors bloom, not asking for permission or following the pattern. That unsettles people who thought life was only about sticking to the script. There's a woman, older, maybe in your family, or just a familiar face from your past. She carries her story like a heavy coat, buttoned up tight, even on sunny days. When she looks at you, it's not really your actions that keep her up at night. It's the way your light won't be hidden. Not for her, not for anybody. She remembers a time when she was young too, with her own dreams and wild hopes. But the world told her to stay behind the fence, play it safe, never step out into the big open field. She did as she was told, traded adventure for approval, and called it wisdom. But now, every time she sees you, something in her heart rattles like old shutters in the wind. It's not that you've gone looking for trouble. You just couldn't settle for a small plot when you felt the whole sky calling your name. You were never content with, "That's just the way it is." While others sat content at the table, you kept looking for the door, drawn to the sun beyond the window. She watches as you build a garden with no blueprints, plant dreams in places that used to be empty, and laugh without needing permission. That kind of freedom shakes the ground she thought was solid. And here's what most folks miss. Her discomfort isn't anger at you. It's a wrestling with her own unlived life. Sometimes the ache comes out sideways, a sharp word, a sigh, a story told with a little too much regret. She wonders, what would my world have looked like if I'd had the courage to step outside the lines? Your boldness shines a light on the places she tucked away, believing it was safer to stay in the shadows than to risk being seen. She hears your laughter, sees the open gate you built, and she's torn between admiration and fear. Now, you might feel that weight. You might notice her mood turn chilly when you talk about a new idea, or see her pull back when you walk into the room with your head held high. Sometimes you wonder if you're doing something wrong just by being yourself. But hear me, your life is not a challenge to her, it's an invitation. Your courage is a seed planted in ground that hasn't seen rain in a long time. She may not say it, but deep down, she feels the pull of possibility. Maybe she criticizes your choices, calls them reckless, selfish, or naive. Maybe she warns you that people like us don't go too far. What you have to remember is that her words aren't really about you. They're echoes from a time when survival meant blending in. Her voice carries the lessons handed down from generations who believed safety was the highest prize. You didn't ask to be the one to break the mold, but the world doesn't change until someone does. If you look back, You might see moments where she tried to push you back into the pattern. Maybe it was the way she frowned at your clothes or your friends. Maybe she told you not to get your hopes up, or suggested your dreams were too big for this little town, this family, this life. Each time you reached for something more, it made her look at her own hands and wonder why she never tried. That's not your shame to carry. If you feel the abundance of divine love in your heart, now is the time to share it. You can help spread God's blessings by clicking the super thank you button on YouTube and contributing $20 or more. This divine gift will touch not only your life, but the souls of many through this platform. Each of you has a sacred place in God's grand design, and your generosity will be the fruit of our prayers. Act now. Share your blessings to glorify His kingdom. For you were created to do even greater things in God's loving hands. May God bless you. You don't have to hide your gifts to keep others comfortable. The sun doesn't apologize for rising. The river doesn't stop flowing because the stones are cold. If God planted a garden in your soul, who is anyone else to build a wall around it? Some will come to rest in your shade. Others will feel the warmth and remember what it was like to hope. When you walk in the fullness of your spirit, you give silent permission to others to step out from behind their fences too. That's the miracle in all this. Your boldness isn't just for you. It breaks chains in every heart that witnesses it. Maybe today she can't admit it, but one day, maybe, she'll look at you and see the path she wished she'd walked, and maybe she'll follow after all. Let your faith be the gardener, your hope the water, and your presence the sunlight that coaxes others to life. For every bitter glance, every doubtful whisper, there are seeds taking root out of sight. Don't shrink back. Don't fold up your wings to make someone else's cage feel bigger. If you are called to be a lighthouse, don't worry about the ships who prefer the fog. There's a promise in the chosen life. Not everyone will clap when you stand tall, but the angels surely will. When you let God's light shine through you, even those who protest the loudest can't help but feel a longing for what you've found. Stay humble, stay kind, but never dim your glow for those still learning how to see. And in the years to come, when your garden grows wild and the fence posts rot away, the stories they tell about you will be about the one who lived, truly lived, while others watched from behind the curtains. Some will bless you, some will misunderstand, but your light will linger, healing hearts you never knew needed mending. If you feel God's presence, you can tap the join button below to become part of the first chosen ones and receive the most important revelations early. Picture a seed planted in the wild earth. Rain can't tell it which way to grow, and the wind can't push it to lean where it doesn't want to go. From the first moment you drew breath, there was a light in you that couldn't be contained, a compass set deep by the Creator Himself. Even before you understood the boundaries, she saw something in your gaze that said you would not be caged by routine or weighed down by old fears. Some folks look at that wildness and see trouble, but God sees a spirit ready for open skies. She did what she knew, tried to build you a safe nest from the same branches passed down to her, stacking memories and warnings like bricks in a wall. She laid out her lessons as if they were a path paved just for you, thinking you'd walk where the grass had already been flattened by so many feet before. But what she didn't know is that you were born with a map no one else could read, a set of wings that grew stronger every time you pressed up against the limits. Every time she tried to anchor you with a rule, you found a way to make it a ladder. The advice she poured like concrete, thinking it would hold you still, became the very stepping stones God used to lift you higher. You honored her intentions, but your soul knew there was more. It's not that you ran from her love, you just couldn't build your home out of her fears. You searched for windows where she drew the curtains tight. Where she saw danger in the unknown, you felt a calling. Where she closed doors to keep you safe, you heard an invitation to walk out into the light. It wasn't open rebellion that startled her. It was your quiet certainty. You carried a peace that didn't need permission, and a joy that bubbled up even when the room was silent. She wanted to hand you a script, but you picked up the pen and wrote your own story. She saw you sidestep tradition and thought it was a threat to all she held dear. But in truth, it was your spirit trusting God's direction. You weren't just moving away from her old ways. You were moving toward the life heaven dreamed for you before you were born. Sometimes she'd watch you and feel a mix of pride and worry, a tug-of-war in her heart, between wanting to see you fly and wanting you to stay where she could protect you. Every new door you found, every leap you took, was a reminder of the risks she never dared to face. That's a hard truth for anyone to swallow, especially when love and fear get tangled up together. But don't mistake her fear for rejection. Many times, what looks like resistance is really someone's way of saying, "I wish I'd known how." She spent so long following a map someone else drew that she forgot she could choose another road. When she tried to plant her instructions as your foundation, you simply took what was useful and built higher, stretching toward the sun that called your name. You never had to shout to prove your worth. Just by living your truth, you showed her, and everyone watching, that a soul in tune with its purpose will always find a way out of confinement. You honored the roots, but you reached for the heavens, letting God's breeze carry you past the fences others built from their own anxiety. Dear brothers and sisters, may God's peace be upon you today. I am here to remind you of a profound truth. Our existence is grounded in God's divine plan, unshaken by the temporal concerns of the world. As the Bible says, whatever is done in faith will return to God in abundant blessing. Luke 6:38. Like that great oak tree, our roots are deeply rooted in God's universal truth. Every step we take, every stand we take, is secured by His strength. And now, you are being offered the opportunity to be part of that blessing. When you use the Super Thank You button and donate $100, this movement will return to you 100-fold in abundance. And so, each tradition you stepped around, every fence you crossed, became a testimony, not of disrespect, but of trust in something bigger than habit or history. She may not have always understood, but you gave her and the world a living sermon, that the greatest safety isn't in hiding from the unknown, but in walking with faith, believing that God lights the next step before your foot even touches the ground. So don't let anyone shame you for refusing to shrink. God made you for open fields, not tiny boxes. And one day, when she sees the garden, you've grown from the very stones she thought would hold you down. Maybe she'll realize you weren't breaking the rules. You were answering a higher call. Your journey is proof that you can honor the past without being trapped by it. Every window you opened, every new path you found, is a reminder to others that it's never too late to look for sunlight. Some folks spend their lives tending gardens that never bloom, then feel a pang each time they see someone plant a single wildflower and watch it thrive. Her disappointment is not truly about your choices. It's a shadow cast by her own unlived dreams, dressed up in new Sunday clothes. Like a tree that's grown in the shade, she can't help but notice when your branches stretch toward the sun. The very sight of you blazing your own trail brings up echoes of every crossroad she faced, every time she chose the sure thing instead of the uncertain calling her heart whispered about. In her younger days, the world was like a box that handed out prizes for blending in and penalties for stepping out of line. Back then, safety meant silence, and peace meant keeping your head down. Yet now, with every joyful yes you say to yourself, every time you raise your voice and refuse to let your truth be smothered, it stirs up memories she folded away long ago like old letters in a drawer. If you feel God's presence, you can tap the join button below to become part of the first chosen ones and receive the most important revelations early. See, she built her whole life on the belief that smoothing things over and keeping quiet was the same as finding peace. She taught herself to wear harmony like a shield, thinking it would keep out disappointment. But you, child, you walk into every room with a different light. You speak up when something doesn't sit right. You chase after what gives you joy, even when it sets you apart from the crowd. And every time you do, it shakes loose the story she's been telling herself for decades. Your courage is like a bell that rings out across the years, asking if peace is really peace, when it's bought by trading away the voice inside. In her heart, she's wrestling with questions she thought she'd buried under good intentions. When she sees you unafraid to stand alone, to claim your blessing without apology, it calls her to remember every fork in the road where she chose comfort over calling. She thought blending in would lead to belonging, but watching you belong to yourself makes her wonder if she missed the bigger purpose. Don't carry her sadness as your own burden. The way she looks at you, sometimes with confusion, sometimes with frustration, is really a reflection of the battle in her own spirit. Like rain that never fell on thirsty ground, her regret shows up every time you let your own roots drink deep. When you laugh loud, when you celebrate your wins, when you refuse to shrink back just to make others comfortable, you invite everyone watching to consider what peace really costs. Your journey isn't just about breaking old patterns. It's about showing what true freedom can look like when you let God lead your steps. Every time you live out loud, you become a living testimony that keeping the peace and having true peace are not always the same thing. God didn't put you here just to fit in. He called you to stand out, to break the silence, to spark hope in places that have known only resignation. So don't be discouraged by the looks you get or the sighs you hear. Her disappointment is the rumbling of old thunder, not a prophecy about your path. The very life you're building is the answer to prayers she didn't dare to speak. As you walk forward, keep shining your light, keep claiming your joy, and let every step you take be a gentle invitation for her, and for anyone watching, to remember, peace that silences your spirit is not peace at all. Real peace comes from walking your God-given road, no matter how wild or unfamiliar it might seem. You are proof that it's never too late to start living out loud. Some homes are like old cathedrals, where every note must match the choir's hymn, and the sound of a single new song feels like a challenge, not a gift. Growing up under her roof was like living where the windows stayed shut, the air always familiar, and the songbook already written. You craved the open field, the breath of spirit that blows in places without walls. She mistook your quiet for rebellion, never seeing that silence is where the soul hears the call of something higher. You were born into a world where sameness was taught as security. Rules had to be followed, dreams put on shelves, and questions saved for later. She lived in a time when difference was dangerous and harmony was worth more than honesty. That's the music she was handed, and she played it faithfully, hoping it would keep everyone safe. But while she marched to the old drum, your heart beat to the rhythm of a new song. A song planted in you by a greater hand, the composer of the universe. The moments when you slipped outside, searching for sunlight or a fresh breeze, she saw as distance or trouble. But those were your holy places, the secret gardens where you talked with God and listened for the wisdom only found in solitude. It wasn't that you rejected her way, it's just that your spirit recognized there was more to life than simply staying in tune with the past. The wisdom she called stubbornness was actually the whisper of purpose. Heaven nudging you to remember who you are. Every sigh, every "why can't you just" was her way of saying she was afraid. Afraid you'd be left out. Afraid the world would punish you for being different. Afraid you'd wander so far you'd never come back. But you, beloved, you carried something she never learned to trust. A compass that always points true, even when the map goes blank. You were made for open skies, not locked rooms. You learned to hear God's voice, not just the echo of old instructions. There are moments that live on like photographs. Her disapproval of your friends, the sideways looks at your clothes, the constant warnings about your strange interests. Joy was met with reminders to tone it down. New ideas were pruned before they could bloom. Whenever you dared to step into your uniqueness, she pointed to stories of those who lost everything by being different. But it wasn't concern. It was a hope to keep you tethered to a life that made sense to her. In her mind, safety and sacrifice were the ticket to heaven, and those who wanted more were prideful. She wanted you to pour yourself out until the cup was empty, convinced that selflessness was the highest good. Every time you set a boundary, it sounded to her like an earthquake. You learned quickly that your happiness could make her uneasy, that your dreams felt like a challenge to everything she'd taught herself to believe. What really made her uneasy was not just your defiance, but your peace. The more you chose your own path, the more her world felt unstable. Your willingness to put your needs on the map shook her faith in all the old rules. Even when you did nothing but care for yourself, it made her question whether everything she gave up was really worth it. Over time, every success you experienced made her feel smaller. If others noticed your progress, she'd find subtle ways to change the subject, insisting it was luck or that it wouldn't last. In public, she might even cheer you on, but her private words were always tinged with warning or doubt, hoping to anchor you to the ground she'd never left. It wasn't about protecting you, it was about keeping you close enough to quiet her own fears. You absorbed more than just her words. Living under her shadow meant you sometimes questioned your own worth, wondering if you were too much or not enough. You shrank yourself to fit her comfort, apologized for wanting more, and sometimes hid your true gifts so as not to invite her discomfort. The weight of her expectations was heavy, and it took years to notice you were carrying stones that weren't yours to begin with. Now is the time to share God's blessings by clicking the super thank you button on YouTube. You can contribute to His plan and be a part of this divine mission with a donation of $100 or more. Every gift reflects God's generosity, and I believe it will return to you exponentially far beyond your expectations. Remember, His protection and blessing is on your every step and every donation. You become part of His divine plan. You are a strong, radiant being, unshakable as His mighty rock. Witness God's miracles, feel the fruits of your generosity in your soul, and illuminate the world with confidence and courage. Be blessed, and let the light of the Lord guide your path. Trying to fit in made you tired in a way sleep could never fix. You might have worn the mask, said the right things, gotten the right kind of job, and still felt an emptiness that lingered after every gathering. You succeeded where others applauded, but your soul felt restless, always tugging you back to what was real. Conformity cost you energy you didn't realize you were spending. The day comes when the truth snaps into focus, not all at once, but through glimpses and nudges. Maybe it's a friend pointing out a pattern. Maybe it's a therapist's question. Maybe it's simply a quiet moment of clarity. You finally see her criticism isn't really about you. It's about the dreams she gave up to keep the peace, the life she never lived. You see that your differences are not flaws, but features. The shame you carried was never yours to own. As you begin to honor your truth, you notice something. Energy once wasted on approval is now available for new dreams. Doubt gives way to creativity. Emotional energy, once spent worrying about her opinion, now propels you forward. The more you live in alignment, the more life shows up with opportunities tailored for your real self. But her resistance doesn't disappear, it intensifies. She might warn you of pitfalls, call out failures, insist your way is reckless. Every prediction of disaster is less about your journey and more about her longing for confirmation that the old ways were best. The louder she gets, the more obvious it is that you're moving in the direction of your destiny. If you feel God's presence, you can tap the join button below to become part of the first chosen ones and receive the most important revelations early. Her struggle is not just personal, it's cultural. The old guard of conformity battles a rising tide of authenticity. You represent a threat to the story that standing out is dangerous. Yet with every win, every fulfilled dream, every joyful moment, her argument loses ground. The world is shifting, and your example is part of the reason why. As you grow, your circle evolves. Those who love your true self find their way to your table. People who thrived on your smallness fall away, creating space for deeper, richer bonds. Work becomes a calling instead of a burden. Money becomes a tool instead of a test. She cannot understand why you would choose meaning over security, but you know now what makes your soul alive. Your new way of loving is built on choice, not duty. You welcome partners who see you, not just need you. Your relationship with money is lighter. You use it. It doesn't use you. Her voice grows fainter as you invest in what truly matters. Your courage is contagious. People you barely know start asking how you did it. Friends reconsider their own lives. The cycle breaks in families, in workplaces, in communities, simply because you showed another way was possible. She feels more isolated, but the tribe that gathers around you is built on truth. Eventually, the last piece of guilt falls away. You no longer apologize for your shine. You don't have to cut her out to find peace, you simply stop seeking her permission. Compassion grows, but boundaries stay firm. The energy you reclaim is spent on building, not explaining. A ripple goes out. Young people watch and learn. Elders reconsider old choices. What began as friction becomes your legacy. Her anger was never your problem. In fact, it refined you, strengthening your resolve, sharpening your focus, making your purpose unshakable. Every chapter you write is a lantern on a new road. Your path doesn't just serve you, it lights the way for others. Her resistance, it was only the grit that made you shine brighter. Authentic living becomes the invitation for generations to come, and the proof that you were never meant to play small. The journey continues, with your story as a testament that freedom is not just possible, it's necessary for everyone who follows.